The first message appeared above my bed at 1:47 a.m., not on my phone, not on a screen, on the wall itself, where the paint should have been blank. The letters looked older than the room, like a stain that had slept under the white and finally bled through. Do not open the door when you hear your name. I read it once, fast, because my mind tried to label it a prank before my body could decide to be afraid. A second line formed beneath it, slow and deliberate, as if the wall was taking a breath. It knows you read this. Then a third line surfaced, darker at the edges, as though it had been there all along. You still sleep with your hand under the pillow. My hand was under the pillow. It always was, and the room stayed still around that fact. I did not sit up right away. I stayed flat on my back, eyes fixed on the corner of the ceiling, pretending that if I did not move, nothing else could move either. The bedroom door was closed. The hallway beyond it was dark. My phone lay face down on the nightstand, with no glow, no vibration, no sound. I listened anyway, because the words had pulled my attention into the space outside my room. A soft breath of sound came from the other side of the door. Not a step, not a scrape, only the sense of someone close. Then my name arrived once, quiet and steady, spoken like a test. The handle did not turn. The door did not shake. The voice did not hurry, as if it had all night. My first thought was a neighbor in the wrong hallway. My second thought was that the wall had told me what would happen before it happened. I kept both hands on top of the sheet and watched them like they belonged to someone else. The name came again, with the same spacing, the same calm certainty, like a recording played at the same volume. I held my breath and waited for the sound of retreating footsteps. Nothing. The apartment building made its usual noises instead. A pipe settling, a distant elevator, the muted traffic outside. That ordinary soundtrack made the voice feel more out of place. I shifted my eyes toward the message without fully looking at it, and the air in the room felt thinner, as if attention itself was being counted. I forced myself to stay still. I did not answer. I did not touch the door. I did not even clear my throat. After a minute, the hallway went quiet again, and I let myself believe the test had ended. Then, below the third line, a faint bruise of letters began to form. So light, I thought it was my eyes. The words deepened, as if the plaster was remembering how to show them. Do not practice saying it. My mouth was closed, but my tongue had been moving against my teeth without sound, rehearsing my own name the way people do when they are afraid of forgetting it. I stopped, and the fear sharpened into something clean. The wall was not reacting to noise. It was reacting to thought that almost became speech. I stayed awake until the window began to lighten. When morning finally came, the message did not fade the way a dream should. In daylight, the letters looked even worse because they did not sit on the surface like marker or paint. They seemed embedded, as if the wall had been written into before it was painted over. I ran a fingertip across the sentence and felt only flat, cool plaster. No smear, no raised edge, no powder. I leaned close and smelled dust and old drywall. Nothing chemical, nothing fresh. In the bathroom mirror, my face looked normal, but my eyes had the flat stare of someone who had listened all night. I made coffee and carried the mug past the wall without looking directly at it, and my hand shook anyway. I went to work on habit. I answered people the way I always did, but I kept flinching at the sound of my own name, even when it was said casually from across an office. Every time someone used it, my stomach tightened, waiting for the calm, steady tone from the hallway. By noon, I realized I was speaking less, saving my voice like it was a resource I might need later. On a break, I opened my phone and checked the speaker, the microphone, the settings, looking for anything that could explain a voice at my door. Nothing. I told myself the message was stress, a joke, a mistake in my sleep. Then I caught myself mouthing my name without sound, the same unconscious practice, and I stopped as if I had been caught on camera. That evening, I left every light on. The brightness made the apartment feel exposed, but I preferred exposed to watched. The message remained unchanged, 4 lines pressed into the wall like a set of rules I had never agreed to learn. I ate standing at the kitchen counter because sitting meant facing the bedroom doorway. Before midnight, I opened a recording app and placed my phone on the nightstand, screen down, volume off. It was a small act, but it gave me something to hold on to. If the voice returned, I would have proof that I had not imagined it. I lay back, with both hands on top of the blanket, fingers spread, trying to sleep like a person with nothing to hide. The wall stayed quiet. Silence did not comfort me. It felt arranged. Sleep came in shallow pieces. I drifted and resurfaced, never fully dropping, as if some part of me refused to leave the room unattended. At some point, the hallway noise returned, not the voice, just a soft pressure in the air, the sense of attention gathering outside my door. I kept my eyes closed and stayed as still as I could, remembering the new line about practice, about giving it shape. The building creaked once. A pipe clicked. My name did not come, and that absence felt like a pause before something larger. I finally slipped under for what felt like seconds. When I opened my eyes again, gray morning had filled the curtains, and my mouth tasted dry, as if I had been breathing through fear all night. The phone was still on the nightstand, warm from running. I sat up and checked the audio file with fingers that did not feel steady. The recording ended at 2:11 a.m., not with a clean stop, not with a tap sound. It simply cut off, mid-silence, as if someone had placed a hand over the microphone and erased the next part of the night. I replayed it from the beginning. For hours there was only the room, my breathing, the faint hiss of the radiator. Then, near the end, a quiet rustle, fabric shifting, and one small sound that made my stomach turn. A single inhale that did not match mine, closer to the phone than my pillow was. My throat was sore in the way it got after speaking. I remembered no words. I stood in front of the wall and let myself look at it fully. The first 3 lines were darker than the day before, as if each night fed them. Below the last sentence, a new mark had appeared, not yet readable, only a pale shadow in the paint, the beginning of another message waiting for the right moment to rise. I checked the door. The lock was still turned the way I left it. Nothing in the hallway felt disturbed, but that meant nothing now. The proof was on my phone, and in the soreness in my throat, and in the fact that the wall had predicted a voice before it arrived. I erased the recording, then regretted it, and tried to recover it, and found only an empty file name. That loss felt deliberate. I went to the sink and ran water until the sound filled the kitchen. When I turned it off, the apartment listened back. I tried to make the next day normal by treating the wall like a stain. I kept my eyes away from it, kept my movements steady, kept my voice low when I spoke on the phone. But the apartment felt altered in a quiet way, like a room after someone has searched it and put everything back almost right. By evening, the memory of my name in the hallway had stopped sounding like a single event. It sounded like the beginning of a pattern. I washed dishes slowly, listening to the water, listening to the pipes, listening for any sound that carried intention. When I finally went to bed, I positioned myself so the wall was behind me. I told myself I was not afraid of words. I was afraid of being known. I woke before the voice came, as if my body had learned the timing without permission. The room was dark enough that the ceiling dissolved into shadow, but I could still feel the wall's presence behind me, like a person standing too close. I rolled over despite myself. The message was there, unchanged, but a new line had appeared beneath the last one, pressed faintly into the paint. It will not sound like you expect. The sentence sat with the calm certainty of a forecast. I read it once and forced myself to look away. I counted my breathing, then counted again, trying to anchor my mind to something that did not watch back. The hallway stayed silent for a long time, and that silence felt like preparation. When my name finally came, it was not the same voice as before. It was softer, warmer, closer to the tone people used when they wanted to soothe you. For a second, my body loosened with reflex, as if relief had been offered. Then I recognized the cadence, the small pause in the middle, the way the last consonant held just a fraction too long. It was my mother's voice. My mother lived in another country. She did not know this building. She did not know my hallway. The name was spoken once, then again, patient and steady, as if the speaker believed I would eventually behave like a son and answer. I did not open the door. I kept my hands flat on the blanket and stared at the seam where the carpet met the baseboard, refusing the instinct to look toward the handle. The voice used my name a third time, and on the third time it added something small, a pet name I had not heard in years, one my mother used only when I was sick as a child. The sound hit my chest like a hand. I pressed my tongue against my teeth to keep it still. Behind me, the wall shifted in the quietest way, not moving, only deepening. A new sentence appeared, as if written by pressure from inside the plaster. It remembers what you listen for. The voice stopped as cleanly as it had started. No footsteps retreated. No elevator opened. No door down the hall clicked shut. The hallway simply returned to ordinary silence, and that made the whole thing feel rehearsed. I waited for a long time, watching the clock without letting myself look at the wall again. When I finally slept, it was not sleep so much as a loss of awareness, a thin drop into nothing. In the morning, I found my phone on the floor beside the bed. I had placed it on the nightstand. The recording app was open, but the file was corrupted, a blank duration that would not play. I picked up the phone and felt my hand shake, and the shaking did not stop when I told it to. At work, my name followed me in smaller ways. A coworker said it across a conference table, and I felt my shoulders tighten, waiting for the calm hallway tone. When I answered, The sound that came out of my mouth did not feel right. It was my voice, but the first syllable caught, as if my tongue had forgotten the shape. I tried again, and heard myself slur it, just slightly, enough that the person frowned and repeated it back to me the way people do when they correct a mistake politely. All day, it happened in tiny fragments. I introduced myself on a call, and felt the same snag. I said my name to a receptionist, and she asked me to spell it, even though she had it on the screen. By late afternoon, I stopped saying it whenever I could. On the train home, I tested the word under my breath without sound, moving only my tongue, careful not to form it with my lips. The old fear returned, sharp and humiliating. I was practicing again. I stared at my reflection in the dark window and tried to say my name in my head instead, to prove I still owned it. A woman across from me looked up suddenly, as if she had heard something. Her eyes passed over me without recognition. She looked back down. The train continued. Nothing dramatic happened, but I carried the moment like a warning. I had begun to suspect that whatever was in my hallway did not stay in my hallway. It stayed near the sound of me. That night I came home and kept the apartment bright. I did not like the way the wall looked under full light, because the letters became more physical, more like bruises in paint than words. I stood in front of them anyway, forcing myself to read every line once, as if naming them would take power away. The new line from the night before remained. It remembers what you listened for. I tried to ignore how that sentence fit my life too well. I had been listening for my name all day. I had been listening for the way it might be said. I had been teaching myself to hear it. I went to bed early, exhausted, and I kept my mouth closed so tightly my jaw ached. I woke at 2:06 a.m. with the certainty of someone called without sound. The wall had added another line. It was shorter than the others, and it looked older, as if it had been waiting under the paint for years. It will try your favorite voice next. I did not have a favorite voice, not in the way the sentence meant, but my mind offered one anyway, and the offer felt like betrayal. I stared at the door until my eyes burned. Then my name came, and for the first second, I almost believed it was safe. It was my own voice, but cleaner, calmer, the version of me from old recordings before fatigue entered my speech. It said my name with perfect familiarity, like I was calling myself home. I kept still. I did not answer the voice that sounded like me. I held my breath and listened for the small flaws that would prove it was imitation, the tiny timing errors, the wrong emphasis. There were none. The name repeated once, then twice, and the third time it was closer, not louder, simply closer, as if the hallway had shortened. My skin tightened under the sheet. Behind me, the wall darkened around the letters, as if the paint had absorbed night. A final sentence appeared under everything else, heavy and clear. You are learning it faster than it is learning you. When morning came, my throat was sore again, and I could not remember whether I had made a sound in the dark. After the second night, I stopped thinking of the wall as a surface. It felt more like a boundary that could be pressed from the other side. I went through my morning routine slowly, watching for gaps in memory, the way you watch for a loose step on stairs. My throat still ached, and I rinsed it with water until the soreness became background. The message stayed on the wall, dark and quiet, but it changed how every room in the apartment felt. I kept lights on, even in daylight. I kept doors open so no single doorway could become a stage. I told myself I was being practical. In truth, I was trying to make the space less suitable for whatever had learned my name. By afternoon, I realized I had started listening for my own voice in other people's mouths. I avoided saying my name whenever I could. When someone at work asked for it, I pointed to my badge. When a delivery driver called, I let it ring until voicemail. The small failure in my speech did not go away, and that frightened me more than the voice in the hallway. A haunting could be dismissed as stress. A change in the way your tongue obeyed, you felt physical, measurable, personal. On the commute home, I practiced silently, not shaping the word with my lips, only thinking it, trying to make the thought clean. Each time I did, I remembered the line about practice and felt as if I was touching a live wire with the back of my mind. I kept my eyes on the floor of the train and waited for my stop like a person avoiding trouble. That evening, I found the first message somewhere it should not have been. Not in my bedroom, not even in my apartment. I stepped into the building lobby and saw fresh paint along the wall by the mailboxes. A clean rectangle where someone had patched and repainted. The color did not match perfectly, just enough to notice, in the center of that new paint, faint as pencil under whitewash, a sentence pressed through: "Do not open the door when you hear your name." It was not written on the surface. It had that same bruised depth, the same feeling of letters emerging from inside the wall. I stood too close, breath held, and felt the lobby lights hum over my head like they were suddenly paying attention. The elevator doors opened with their usual polite chime, and I stepped inside as if nothing had happened. The mirrored panel was streaked with fingerprints and dull light. I watched my own reflection on purpose because it felt safer than looking at any wall. Halfway between floors, a thin film of fog bloomed on the mirror, perfectly centered at my eye level, like breath on glass. Letters surfaced inside that fog, clean and pressed, not written on top. "It knows you read this." I froze. The fog did not spread. It held the shape of the sentence as if it had been stamped there. Then the elevator passed a brighter ceiling light, and the words vanished instantly, leaving only my reflection and the same dirty streaks. When the doors opened, the woman beside me walked out without hesitation, never once glancing at the mirror. That night, I did not stand in front of the wall. I did not read the lines again. I treated the apartment like a room with a sleeping animal in it, careful not to disturb what I could not see. I ate a small meal without tasting it. I showered with the bathroom door open. I left lamps on in the living room and hallway. When I finally went to bed, I positioned myself on my side and closed my eyes, facing away from the message. It felt childish, but it was the only control I still trusted. In the dark, I listened for my name and promised myself I would not respond, even in my head. Silence stretched long enough to become a pressure. Then it broke, not with my name, but with a soft sound of someone shifting weight in the hallway. My name came a few minutes later, quieter than before, as if the speaker had moved closer to the crack beneath the door. It did not sound like my mother or like me. It sounded like someone trying on voices, failing to choose one that would work. The word was correct. The tone was wrong in small ways, like a radio station almost tuned in. I kept my mouth closed and tried to make my breathing even. In the wall behind me, I felt rather than saw a change, as if the letters were rearranging under the paint. I did not turn to look, but my mind filled in the shape of a new sentence forming, and I hated that it could do that to me. The voice stopped. No retreat, no footsteps. Only the building's normal night sounds returning, as if nothing had happened. Morning arrived with the same thin tiredness, and I went to work with my mind still in the hallway. The shift in my speech was worse. When I tried to say my name at reception, the first syllable simply would not come out. Air moved, sound did not. The receptionist smiled, waiting, and I felt heat rise into my face like shame. I tried again, slower, and the word came out altered. One consonant softened as if my tongue had been filed down overnight. She wrote it down the way she heard it. It was not my name. I corrected her by pointing at my ID and nodding, because speaking it again felt like tempting the wrong kind of attention. All day I moved through rooms where people spoke easily, and I guarded every word like a secret. On the way home, I stopped at a small grocery store near the station. The place smelled of fruit and disinfectant, bright and ordinary, the kind of space where nothing supernatural should fit. I chose items I did not need just to keep my hands busy. At the checkout, I tapped my card and kept my eyes on the receipt printer. Then, from somewhere behind me in the aisle, my name was spoken. Same volume as a casual call to a friend. Same steady certainty as the hallway. The cashier did not react. No one turned their head. I turned slowly anyway, heart tight, expecting to see someone looking straight at me. A man in a dark coat stood by the freezer doors, staring at his phone. He was not looking at me. He did not seem aware he had said anything at all. I walked out of the store without my bag. I did not realize I had left it until I reached the street and felt my hand empty. I kept walking anyway, because going back meant passing that aisle again. The world looked the same. Cars moving, people waiting at lights, the city running on habit. That was what made it feel worse. My name had entered the daylight, and nothing around me noticed. It was as if I had become a frequency only I could hear. By the time I reached my building, my jaw ached from holding my mouth closed. In the lobby, the patched paint near the mailboxes looked a shade darker, as if it had absorbed the evening. I did not look at it directly. I felt it watching anyway, and my steps quickened without my permission. Inside my apartment, I checked the wall first, and regret followed immediately. A new line had surfaced beneath the others, clean and flat, as if it had been pressed into wet plaster and allowed to dry. It is easier in places where you feel safe. I read it once, and the sentence sat in my chest like a weight. The grocery store had been safe. The train had been safe. Work had been safe. Now, I could not name a place that still was. I turned away from the message and went through the rooms, opening each door and leaving it open, as if the layout could be changed by simple intention. When I finally lay down, I kept my eyes closed and waited for my name to find me again. Even before the sound came, I felt my throat tighten, already preparing to answer. By the fourth day, I stopped checking whether the wall was real. It was real in the only way that mattered, because it changed what I did. I moved through work like a careful person, keeping my head down, answering without using my own name, avoiding introductions, avoiding anything that forced my mouth to form that shape. The city sounded normal around me, but I kept hearing the hallway tone in ordinary voices, like a note threaded into every sentence. When evening came, I went home early. I did not want to be outside when the hour approached. Inside my apartment, I opened every door again, left lamps on, and tried to make the space feel flat and uninteresting. The wall did not care. It waited the way it always waited, inside the paint. I stayed away from the bedroom until I had to go there. When I finally crossed the threshold, I kept my eyes on the floor and the baseboards, refusing to give the message a direct look. It was still there. I knew it without seeing it, the way you know a person is in a room with you. I set my phone to record and placed it farther away, near the foot of the bed, as if distance could make me safer. Then I lay down with my hands on top of the blanket and my mouth closed. I tried to keep my thoughts plain and quiet. I told myself that if the trap was recognition, I would give it nothing to recognize. Outside, traffic thinned. Inside, the apartment held its breath. Sleep did not come. The minutes dragged in a slow line toward the part of the night I did not trust. At 2:03 a.m., I rolled slightly, then forced myself still again, angry at the small movement. At 2:06 a.m., my eyes opened without permission, as if something had touched the back of my neck. I stared at the dark ceiling and listened to my own breathing until it sounded like someone else. I wanted to look at the wall, and I refused. That refusal felt like work. At 2:09 a.m., the building clicked and settled, a pipe cooling, an elevator somewhere far away. I waited for my name. Instead, I heard nothing, and that nothing felt arranged, like a pause held on purpose. When my name finally came, it was not loud. It did not need to be. It landed in the room with the calm certainty of a familiar sound. I did not answer. I did not shift my head toward the door. I kept my eyes half shut and stared at the edge of the pillow, trying to stay in my body. The name came again, slightly closer, not louder, as if the hallway had shortened by a few inches. I swallowed once. My throat tightened. In the silence that followed, I felt the pressure to move, like an idea being pushed into my joints. My fingers twitched on the blanket, and I held them down with the weight of my own palm, keeping myself in place. At some point, I realized I was counting without meaning to. Not seconds, movements. How many times I had swallowed. How many times I had shifted my shoulders. How many times my tongue had pressed against my teeth. I hated that my body had become a list. The voice stopped cleanly, like a light switched off. I waited for the building to return to normal sound, but it did not. It stayed too quiet, the way a room stays quiet when someone is standing just outside it. I knew the wall was behind me. I could feel it, like a cold panel that held words inside it. I did not turn. I kept my eyes closed until they hurt, and I lay there as if sleep was a thing I could force by refusal. I must have lost time, because morning arrived in a hard cut. There was no memory of drifting, only the dull certainty that hours had passed without me being present for them. Light seeped through the curtains and made the room look ordinary again. I sat up slowly and looked down at my hands. They felt heavy, as if I had been gripping something all night. My throat was sore. I touched the side of my neck and felt tenderness under the skin, the way it felt after speaking too long. The phone was still recording, but the screen showed the same thing I had seen before. The file ended at 2:11, stopped mid-silence. as if the night had been cut with a blade. I played the recording with the volume low. Most of it was nothing, my breathing and the faint hum of electricity in the walls. Then, near the end, a soft sound like fabric moving, closer than the foot of the bed should have allowed. My breathing changed. I heard it speed up, then steady, like a person trying to regain control. And under that, so faint I had to replay it, a whisper of my own voice shaping the first syllable of my name. Not a full word, not loud enough to wake someone in the next room, but it was there. I did not remember making it. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at the phone until my eyes stung, trying to decide whether proof made this better or worse. In the kitchen, I found a glass of water on the counter. I did not remember pouring it. The faucet was dry. The glass was half full, set down neatly beside the sink, like it had been placed for someone who would wake thirsty. I turned toward the hallway and realized I was already standing too close to the bedroom door. My hand was on the knob, not gripping it yet, but resting there, fingertips curled as if they had been waiting. I did not remember walking out of bed. I did not remember crossing the apartment. The door was closed, even though I knew I had left it open. I pulled my hand away fast and felt the skin on my palms sting, as if the metal had been colder than it should be. I stood in the bright kitchen light and tried to reconstruct the missing minutes, and found only blank space where a decision should have been. A new line had appeared, short and clean, centered beneath the others. At 2:11, you will do it without me. I read it once and felt heat rise into my face. Not anger, not shame, something closer to being exposed. The message was not describing a voice anymore. It was describing my body. It was describing my part in it. I backed away from the wall and sat on the edge of the bed, forcing myself to breathe steadily. I tried to remember the missing minutes and found only blankness, like a page torn from a book. I thought of the closed door, the glass of water, the soreness in my throat. None of it was dramatic. That was what made it terrifying. It fit inside an ordinary morning too easily. I went to work with the taste of that line in my mouth. At reception, someone asked for my name, and the first syllable caught again, refusing to leave my throat. I pointed to my badge and nodded, feeling my face stay calm while something inside me tightened. All day I watched my hands as if they might move on their own. I avoided mirrors. I avoided elevators. I avoided quiet hallways where my name could become the only sound. When I finally returned home, I did not turn on the television. I did not play music. I left the apartment silent and bright, as if light could keep the night honest. I stood in the doorway of my bedroom and did not look at the wall. I listened to my own breathing and tried to hear whether it belonged to me. By the start of the 5th night, I understood something I did not want to understand. The voice in the hallway was only the surface of it. The real danger was how easily my body began to move toward what I feared, as if the fear itself was a rope tied to my wrists. I spent the day trying to keep my life intact in small ways. I ate meals at regular times. I answered emails quickly before my mind could drift to the hour on the wall. I avoided speaking my name aloud, and when I had to, I did it fast, like ripping tape from skin. Nothing fixed the snag in my tongue. If anything, it grew. I could feel the word changing shape in my mouth, becoming something softer, less mine. That made me want to hurry, to solve this before I lost the simple right to answer when someone called me. I came home before dark and walked through every room with the lights on. I checked the front door twice, then realized what I was doing and forced myself to stop at 2, because a third check felt like surrender. In the kitchen, I moved objects without needing to, straightening a towel, lining up a mug, making order as if order could protect me. When I passed the bedroom, I kept my eyes on the floor. I did not want the message in my head before bed, but the message was already in my head. I had read it enough times that it existed without looking. At 9 p.m., I put my phone on the table and watched it, waiting for it to do something strange, the way you watch an appliance you no longer trust. Nothing happened. The normal quiet of the evening felt staged, like a set dressed for a scene I did not want to perform. I tried to sleep early. I lay down with my hands on top of the blanket and my mouth closed and my eyes turned away from the wall. The apartment was bright with lamplight, and it made the shadows in the corners look blunt and harmless. That should have helped. It did not. It only made me more aware of how much I was doing to prepare. I listened to the building settle, the pipes cooling, the distant elevator, a neighbor's footsteps above me. Ordinary sounds. I held on to them the way you hold onto a railing in the dark. At some point, I drifted, then resurfaced, then drifted again, never fully dropping. Each time I opened my eyes, I had to remind myself where I was, as if I had been waking from someone else's life. At 1:58 a.m., my eyes opened and stayed open. The air felt slightly thinner, not colder, just less forgiving, as if the room had become more hollow. I lay still and listened. No voice yet, no footsteps, only my own breathing and the hum of the lamp. Then, from the hallway, my name came in my mother's tone again, soft and patient, the way it sounded when I had been sick as a child. My chest tightened with reflex, a physical urge to answer, to become the person that voice expected. I kept my mouth closed and pressed my tongue flat against the roof of my mouth to stop it from shaping anything. The name repeated, and on the second time it sounded closer, as if the hallway had narrowed to a small space right outside the door. My hand moved before I decided to move it. Not a full reach, just a lift, fingers rising from the blanket like something waking. I watched it, horrified, and forced it down with my other hand. The pressure of palm on wrist felt like holding down a spring. My name came again, and this time the voice was not my mother. It was my own voice, clean and calm, saying the word the way I used to say it before it started snagging. That sound hit me harder than anything else. It was not a stranger trying to get in. It was me calling myself. I felt my throat tighten, ready to answer out of pure recognition, and I understood then what the wall had meant. It was not trying to open the door. It was trying to open me. The voice stopped. The building did not immediately return to normal sound. The silence stayed too smooth, like a hand over a speaker. I lay rigid, waiting for some obvious escalation that never came. Instead, I felt small impulses inside my body, tiny instructions written in muscle, a need to sit up, a need to turn my head, a need to look at the wall. I refused each one. Refusal felt like holding a heavy door shut from the inside. Minutes passed. My jaw ached from clenching it. I kept my eyes on the edge of the pillow, fixed on a thread in the fabric, as if that thread could anchor me to ordinary reality. When I finally blinked, I realized I had been holding my breath again. Morning arrived, and I found myself sitting on the edge of the bed with no memory of sitting up. My phone was on the floor again, as if it had been dropped, and the recording had ended at 2:11, the same abrupt cut in the same place. My throat burned like I had spoken for a long time. In the bathroom mirror, my lips looked dry and cracked, as if I had been whispering. I tried to say my name out loud, just once, to test myself. The first syllable came out wrong, softened, like a word spoken through fabric. I tried again, and felt panic rise, because the sound no longer matched the shape I had carried all my life. I shut my mouth and gripped the sink until my knuckles went pale, forcing myself to breathe steadily. The fear was no longer only at night, it was in my mouth. That day at work, it stopped being a collection of small mistakes and became one clean moment I could not talk my way out of. A director joined a call late, and someone asked me to introduce myself for the recording. I knew the sentence they needed, the simple line I had said 100 times. I opened my mouth, and the first syllable of my name caught like a hook in my throat. Silence filled the call. I tried again, slower, and the sound that came out was softened, wrong, not quite my name anymore. Someone repeated it back as a question. I nodded anyway, because correcting it would have meant saying it again. After the call, my manager pulled me aside and asked if I was sick. I told him I hadn't slept. That was true, but it was not the reason. On the way back to my desk, I realized I had started losing my life in small, quiet edits. When I got home, I stood in the bedroom doorway and finally let myself look at the wall. The letters were darker, deeper, as if each night pressed them more farther into the paint. A new line had appeared beneath the last warning, clean and centered. You are not losing your voice. You are giving it away. I read the sentence once, and the room felt suddenly smaller, as if the walls had moved a fraction inward. I backed away without turning my back on it, then stopped because I realized I was treating the message like a person. That realization sickened me. I did not want to live like this, measuring my movements, guarding my mouth, listening for my own name as if it were a threat. I sat at the kitchen table with the lights on and stayed there until midnight, thinking carefully for the first time in days, not about the voice, about the scene. The pattern was not only sound, it was the whole shape of the night. Darkness, one closed door, me in bed, the wall in front of me, waiting for my name like a cue. Each time I waited, each time I listened, each time I recognized the voice, I gave it more of me. I could not fight it by reacting better. I could only fight it by not participating in the scene at all. The thought felt obvious once it formed, and it made my stomach twist, because it meant the final night would not be a test of courage. It would be a test of endurance. I would have to stay awake and refuse the small impulses, refuse the urge to check, to look, to confirm. I would have to make the apartment wrong for it, not by blocking doors, but by removing the stage it expected. I wrote a simple list on a notepad, not as a ritual, only as a reminder for my tired brain. Keep the lights on. Keep every door open. Do not look at the wall. The next day moved like it was already half night. I kept thinking ahead to the evening, to the list on the notepad, to the hours I would need to stay awake and refuse myself. My body felt heavy, as if it was made for sleep, and I was forcing it into something else. At work, I made it through meetings and small conversations with the careful calm of someone walking with a cracked bone. I avoided saying my name entirely. When someone asked for it, I smiled and pointed, or I let the question slide into a new topic. The idea of the word leaving my mouth now felt risky, like leaving a door unlocked. Every time my phone rang, my stomach tightened with the expectation of my own voice on the other end. Nothing happened. That absence did not comfort me. It felt like the pause a storm takes before it changes direction. When I got home, the lobby wall by the mailboxes looked as if it had darkened overnight. The paint patch was still new, still clean, but the faint pressed letters were clearer than before. Someone had walked past it with groceries and not noticed. I stood there longer than I should have, staring at the sentence, feeling the wrongness of seeing my private warning displayed in a public space. Then I saw something else. Beneath the first line, a second line had begun to surface. As pale as a fingerprint, I leaned closer, and my breath fogged the paint for a second. Earlier this time, the words were not dramatic. That was what made them frightening. They felt like a schedule change, the kind you get no vote on. Inside my apartment, I kept the lights on and tried to follow my list without treating it like superstition. I opened every interior door and left it open. I moved the chair away from the bedroom doorway so I would not have to squeeze past it in the dark. I set water and food on the kitchen counter. Simple things, like a person preparing to be sick. I did not approach the wall. I did not read the older messages again. I kept telling myself the plan was logical. It was not magic. It was about denying a pattern. But as the evening went on, the apartment began to feel as if it did not approve of being lit. The corners looked flat, stripped of their usual shadows. Even the hum of the refrigerator sounded louder, as if the silence was thinning. At midnight, 34 a.m., my phone buzzed. No call, no text, just a brief vibration that made my stomach tighten. I checked the screen and saw nothing. Then I heard it, faint but clear, from somewhere inside the apartment. My name, spoken once, not from the hallway, not from behind the bedroom door, but from the living room, near the window. The sound was soft, almost conversational, like someone testing a microphone. I turned my head toward it, then stopped myself halfway, holding still as if movement could make the sound more real. The living room was empty. The lights were on. Nothing had shifted. My throat tightened anyway, ready to answer out of reflex, and I pressed my tongue hard against my teeth until the urge passed. The name came again, closer, and this time I understood something that made my skin tighten. There was no voice behind it, no breath, no warmth. It sounded like a memory of a voice, like a clean sample played through the air. I stood in the kitchen with both hands on the counter, staring at the tile, forcing my eyes not to search for a source. If I searched, I would be giving it what it wanted. The apartment stayed bright and ordinary, and that brightness made the sound feel more impossible. My phone sat on the counter with the screen off. The television was off. The speaker in the hallway was off. Still, my name existed in the room as a sound. My chest rose and fell too fast, and I slowed it deliberately, counting making my body do what my mind told it to do. I did not go to bed. I sat at the kitchen table where I could see most of the apartment without needing to look down the bedroom hall. Every door remained open. The bedroom door, the bathroom door, the closet door, all open, as if the apartment had nothing to hide. At 1:12 a.m., the wall in the bedroom made a faint sound, not a scrape, not a crack, more like pressure releasing. I heard it from the kitchen and felt my stomach drop. I kept my eyes on the table. I did not look. A minute later, my name came again, not from the bedroom, not from the hall, but from the space behind me, as if it had slipped into the apartment without needing any door at all. I kept my posture still, forcing myself not to turn, and the muscles in my neck shook with the effort. The sound stopped. The silence afterward was not relief. It was the kind of quiet that waits for you to fill it. I sat with my hands flat on the table until my palms went numb. Time moved in slow pieces. At 1:40 a.m., my throat began to ache, not from speaking, but from holding back speech. I realized with a sick clarity that this was what it was doing. It was not stealing my voice by force. It was training my body to offer it. The plan I had made suddenly felt too small, like a chair set against a flood. Then I remembered the line from the wall. The trap was recognition. If I could reach morning without giving it the scene, I might reach morning without giving it me. I stared at the wood grain in the table and let the hours grind past. Sometime after 2, the apartment changed in a way I could not measure. The light stayed the same, but the space felt less stable, like a picture held slightly out of alignment. My name did not come again. That was worse. I began to anticipate it, and anticipation itself felt like participation. To fight that, I did something small and deliberate. I stood up, slowly, and walked to the bathroom with my eyes down, not scanning, not searching. I washed my hands in cold water and kept my mouth closed. I returned to the kitchen and sat down again. The act was ordinary. That was the point. I was forcing the night to contain ordinary actions instead of rituals. Still, my throat burned, and I could not tell whether I had whispered while I walked. When morning finally arrived, it arrived without relief. I did not remember falling asleep, but my head was on the table, my cheek pressed to the wood. The lights were still on. Every door was still open. I sat up slowly and checked my phone. There was an audio recording running, started at midnight. The file ended at 1:59 a.m., not 2:11 a.m. this time. Earlier this time, it stopped mid-room tone, as if the apartment's sound had been cut. I replayed the last minute and heard my breathing, the creak of my chair, then a faint shape of my name forming in my own voice, as if my mouth had tried to answer without waking me. I did not remember it. My throat was sore anyway. I looked toward the bedroom and felt the old pull, the urge to check the wall, to confirm. I waited. I made coffee first. I refused to start the day with it. When I finally stepped into the bedroom, I kept my eyes on the floor until I was close enough that the wall filled my peripheral vision. Then I looked. A new line had appeared beneath the older messages, pressed deep, darker than the rest. You are running out of safe hours. The sentence did not feel like a threat. It felt like a fact. I stood there with the morning light on the curtains and felt my stomach sink. It was moving earlier. It was leaving the hallway. It was using the apartment itself. The plan had worked only halfway, and half measures were not going to hold. I tore the notepad page from the pad and folded it into my pocket. The list was no longer preparation for one night. It was preparation for a final one. I decided that the next night I would not let myself drift at all. I would stay awake from evening to morning if I had to, and I would not look at the wall once. I spent the day moving slowly, conserving myself the way you conserve heat in a drafty room. I drank water even when I was not thirsty. I ate simple food and kept it down. I avoided conversations that might force my name into the air. By late afternoon, my mouth felt tired from staying closed, and my jaw ached as if silence had weight. I went home before sunset and stood in the lobby for a moment, staring at the wall by the mailboxes without letting my eyes focus. I could sense the faint pressed letters there, like a bruise under paint. Earlier this time, that phrase had changed everything. It meant the night was not waiting for me anymore. It was arriving when it wanted, and I could either prepare or be caught in the same scene again. Inside my apartment, I did not rush. I turned on every lamp, every overhead light, every small warm bulb I normally saved for winter evenings. The brightness was uncomfortable and flat, and I accepted that discomfort as the price of removing shadows. I opened every door and left it open. Bedroom door, bathroom door, closet door, even the cabinet under the sink. As if the apartment had nothing that needed hiding, I moved objects away from thresholds so my feet would not need to step carefully in the night. I set my phone on the kitchen table and started a recording that would run until morning. I wrote nothing down this time. I did not want a list to become a ritual. I wanted only a choice I could repeat, hour after hour, without negotiating with myself. When it got dark outside, I stayed in the kitchen, not because it was safer, but because it was neutral, a place where I could sit and keep my eyes away from the bedroom wall. I made coffee I did not want and let the mug warm my hands. The apartment hummed and clicked in ordinary ways. Refrigerator compressor, pipes cooling, a neighbor's TV muffled through plaster. I held on to those sounds. They belonged to normal life. From time to time, my attention tried to drift toward the bedroom, toward the wall that had been writing itself into my nights. Each time, I brought my eyes back to the table grain and kept them there. If the trap was recognition, I would not give it a straight look, not even once, not even to check. At midnight, 41 a.m., my name came quietly from somewhere in the apartment. Not the hallway, not behind a door. The sound sat in the living room air as if it had always been there, and I was only now noticing it. I did not turn my head. I did not search for a source. I kept my posture steady and let my breathing remain slow, because fast breathing felt like a response, and response felt like a handshake. The name came again with a different voice, a softer voice, a voice that carried a familiar kindness. For a moment, my body leaned toward it without moving, a reflex, wanting comfort. I pressed my tongue flat against my teeth and held my mouth closed until the urge passed. The sound stopped. The silence that followed tried to pull my attention outward, and I refused that too. Time thickened after that. It became less like minutes and more like resistance. My shoulders began to ache from holding still, and my eyelids grew heavy in waves. Each time sleep tried to take me, I felt the same danger. Not that I would be hurt, that I would participate without meaning to, whispering, shifting, answering in some small automatic way I would not remember. So I stayed awake on purpose. I stood up and washed a plate that was already clean. I refilled a glass that was already full. I walked to the bathroom and ran cold water over my hands, then returned to the table without looking down the bedroom hall. Ordinary actions done deliberately to keep the night from becoming a staged waiting room. My throat burned anyway, as if the word of my name was trying to form on its own. At 1:38 a.m., the apartment made a small sound from the bedroom, like pressure releasing under paint. It was not loud. It was enough. My attention surged toward it, hungry for confirmation, and I felt how easy it would be to turn this into the same pattern again. I stayed seated. I kept my eyes on the table. My name came once from behind me, in my own voice, clean and calm, the version of my voice from years ago. The sound was so convincing, my chest tightened with instinct, ready to answer the way you answer yourself when you check whether you are alone. I did not move. I did not speak. I let the sound hang in the air until it faded. When it returned a second time, it was closer, as if the distance inside the apartment had shortened, and I still did not turn. The hardest part was not the sound. It was the space after it, the way the silence seemed to wait for me to complete it. My mind tried to fill the gap with imagination, and imagination felt like giving it material. I kept my thoughts plain, naming objects in the room without emotion. Table, mug, light, curtain. I listened to my breathing and refused to shape it into words. At some point, my eyes closed for a second too long, and I snapped them open, heart tight, afraid I had lost time. The recording on my phone was still running. The lights were still on. Every door remained open. Nothing had changed in a visible way, and that steadiness mattered. It meant the night had not taken control of the layout. I stayed awake through the hour that used to belong to 2:11 a.m., and when no abrupt cut arrived, I felt my stomach unclench for the first time in days. Near morning, the apartment began to feel normal again. Not safe, but ordinary, as if the air had stopped holding its breath. My name did not return. I waited for it anyway, because waiting had become automatic, and I hated that I could not switch it off. When the gray light finally showed behind the curtains, I stood up slowly and stretched my stiff shoulders. I did not go to the bedroom immediately. I made coffee. I ate a piece of bread. I washed my face. I did these things to prove I could start a morning without first checking what the wall had decided overnight. Only when the sun was fully present did I step toward the bedroom doorway, and even then I kept my eyes low until I was inside. I told myself that if the wall had something new to say, it could say it while I was awake and steady. I looked up. The older messages were still there, pressed dark into white paint, but they looked flatter than before, like bruises that had stopped deepening. A final line had appeared beneath the rest, clearer than any of the others, as if it had been written with certainty and then sealed in place. You didn't answer. You didn't look, so it couldn't learn you. This is over for you. I read the sentence once and felt a strange, clean exhaustion, the kind that comes after holding something heavy for too long and finally setting it down. My throat did not ache the way it had been aching. I said my name out loud, softly, as a test, and the word came out in my own voice without catching. The apartment did not react. The wall did not add anything. It stayed silent, and that silence felt different from before. It felt finished. Days passed, and the quiet held. I slept with the lights off again. I closed doors without thinking. I stopped listening for my name in the wrong places. The wall remained marked, but it did not change, like an old scar that no longer hurts. On the fourth morning, I saw a moving truck outside the building, and a man I had not seen before carrying boxes through the lobby. I nodded, polite, and stepped aside. He thanked me without using my name, of course, because he did not know it. Later, on my way out, I passed the mailboxes and noticed him standing still by the patched paint on the lobby wall. He was staring at it too long, head tilted slightly, as if reading something faint that he could not quite believe. I kept walking. I did not warn him. I did not know how, and I understood, with a calm that felt like grief, that it had ended for me only because it had begun for someone else. The city is quiet now. You should be too.